I am Dracula. I bid you welcome.
Oh, it's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Thou shalt rise again.
Power to make multitudes run squealing in terror at the touch of my little invisible finger.
Do you believe in werewolves?
To a new world of gods and monsters.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Eternal Midnight. I am Chad, and I'm joined as always by Ken.
Hey everyone.
So, Ken, what are we talking this evening?
A movie that, could have been improved, but I think has enough stuff in it to keep me entertained. House of Dracula.
This is such a weird one because part of me is like, so we've always known that a lot of these movies don't really follow continuity that well. Like we just know that. But this one just completely drops the ball and just says, we do care about continuity, but we also don't.
We care about continuity as far as the Frankenstein monster goes, but as far as Dracula and Lawrence Talbot, forget about continuity. So Dracula, who died by sunlight in House of Frankenstein, is back, and I think we mentioned this in a previous episode. I'm going to go ahead and say one of my big issues with this movie is the fact that Dracula is seeking a cure for vampirism.
Yeah, why? It's like he's trying to seek a cure, yet he's still acting like a vampire trying to steal a bride the whole time. It's like, you do realize if you go back to being like getting rid of it and being a human, you can't do that anymore. So which one do you want? Do you want the powers or no?
Yeah, it's really inconsistent. And look, I can understand why Lawrence Talbot, who shows up later, wants a cure for lycanthropy. I can totally understand that. But like Dracula, it's sort of a character betrayal.
Yeah.
Like this person who's always been this immortal person who's like always been power seeking now suddenly is like, oh, you know what? I'm tired of this. I want to be a mortal man and die properly. Also, a problem I have with this movie is, so we introduced the character of Dr. Edelman, played by good character. I like him a lot. But what I don't like is that they apply like a scientific explanation to vampirism and the werewolfery or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I like those things better when they're mystical, not scientific,
as opposed to like a disease or something like that, or a genetic defect. Like, hey, these were the first mutants before X-Men.
Right, exactly. No. But yeah.
And randomly, Lawrence Talbot just shows up with a mustache, and he's just
you beat me, dude. He's rocking a pretty sweet mustache. I'll give him that.
Why?
Oh, like this character who's going through all this anguish and like pain of turning into a werewolf. At some point, was like, you know what? I'm gonna try a mustache.
And just how did he go out in the last movie? I forget.
He was shot by a silver bullet.
He just
gypsy girl.
Right.
And they make no explanation for why he's alive again.
Yeah. And then just boom, just shows up. I'm looking for the doctor. Oh, put me in prison. It's like, and then they do, and they all see it. They're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. For the first time, someone actually sees him turn into a werewolf.
Right. It's like the first time somebody's able, it's like, hey man, you could have solved all your problems a long time ago by just doing what you're doing right here. Be like, everyone watch.
Yeah. Also, I'm not sure if we've talked about this. I know I've talked to people about this. I feel like being a werewolf wouldn't be that bad. Like in real life. In real life, say we go by the lore that you turn into a werewolf when the full moon is out. Now, if you know when it's coming, lock yourself in a basement, throw some raw meat in there to satiate yourself, and you'll be good.
Now, is it when you look at the full moon or when it is the full moon?
The way I've always understood it is it's when the full moon rises to the sky.
Okay. Well, it also depends what kind of Wolfman you become. If you become the Wolfman like here, yeah, you could probably do that. If you become the Wolfman the way like Hugh Jackman was in Van Helsing, hey, there ain't shit stopping you then.
Or like David Naughton in An American Werewolf in London.
Nothing is stopping you then. I'm not gonna lie, that is still one of the best werewolf transformations of all time.
Oh, the
Holy
best.
shit.
Not one of the best for me. The best.
The most one of like the pain he's going through as he transforms is like only comparable to like the transformations in like John Carpenter's The Thing or something.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's just
oh. Yeah. Sucks that he was directed by a murderer, but that murderer did happen
to make some good movies.
Well, no, and John Landis did say that his logic in that, like in the old Universal Monster movies, you see, because they're just doing the cross dissolves and applying more and more makeup. And he's just like, I don't imagine if someone is turning into a werewolf, they're going to sit totally still during the process. He's like, especially with my werewolf, who is someone turning into like a four-legged beast, I imagine it'd be a very painful process for your bones to change shape for you to become a werewolf.
Mm-hmm.
But we're talking about talking about House of Dracula here. Yes, yes. However, this is still a fine film. And Chad, I'm not sure if you want to go ahead and talk about this, but there is one particular character that you felt particularly bad for in this movie.
What's her face? Shoot, I got their names backwards. Is Nina the Hunchback or Militia?
I think it is. I think it's Nina.
Okay.
Yeah. A Hunchback woman. First we've seen.
And she's like one of the best characters. Like,
yeah, she's
ever.
Not hurting anyone.
No, she's like one of the kindest characters out of all these movies. She's been promised, the doctor, when he was still a good person, is promising he's going to help her, and she's helping him. And then
she selflessly says, oh, you need to do this surgery for Lawrence first so that he can be alleviated of this pain.
Yeah, she literally sacrificed her own happiness for a man who was like basically smitten with the other nurse.
Mm-hmm.
And the movie ends with her getting strangled to death and thrown down a hole. It's like, this poor woman. Jeez, it's like anyone who said they felt bad for Daniel in House of Frankenstein, it's like, I implore you to look at this poor woman.
Yeah, and also, look, yeah, feel bad for Daniel, but he was still like sort of possessive and sort of like a weirdo. Like, this woman is just pure kindness. And
yeah, she literally goes out of her way multiple times to help everyone around her, and she just winds up getting killed for all of it.
Yeah.
Like, she wasn't even like a bitch like the gypsy in the last movie, who he's like, you felt bad for her because it's like she was getting beaten by her old boss, boyfriend, dad, whatever he was. And then she like tries to be nice to Daniel, even though she's kind of repulsed by him. But then it's like, as soon as he's like, I just want to save your life, she goes off on him.
You're mean and you're ugly and I hate you.
What a horrible thing to say to someone.
Now, okay, so we were talking about we're not following continuity with Dracula or the Wolfman. However, when Lawrence Talbot tries to like kill himself by drowning himself, I guess, very impulsively, they find this underground cavern where they find the remains of the Frankenstein monster preserved, which makes sense. He's a superior being or whatever, and the skeleton of Dr. Neiman from House of Frankenstein.
Yeah, it's like, what? So I was like, why are they?
So we're following that continuity.
Them? But where were they when this happened?
Maybe the sedimentation shifted or something. I don't know.
This is the same character who fell into a sulfur pit, and then wasn't he like found in a glacier or something?
No. He was found in the sulfur pit again in Ghost of Frankenstein. In Ghost of Frankenstein, he died in a burning building and then was found in a block of ice.
That's right.
Now,
what is the point of putting the Frankenstein monster in all these movies aside from him being a famous monster? He hasn't done anything
until the very end in either of these movies, House of Frankenstein or House of Dracula. He doesn't do anything till the very end.
Yeah, he wakes up, walks around, and then dies. It's like, what's the point? And this movie, didn't they just show stock footage from another movie of the building burning, the building being on fire.
Yes, when it's like coming down and everything, they went back to stock footage from Ghost of Frankenstein.
Yeah, when
that house is
Igor,
burning down.
when Igor was, he was blind and he was like with his arms outstretched,
Blind in the monster's body. Yes,
oh
yes.
my gosh.
Now, one question I want to ask you, I don't understand why either this or House of Frankenstein, why are they called House of Frankenstein and House of Dracula when neither of those two characters are like the main focal point?
I think in House of Frankenstein was
House of Frankenstein, you can make a little more argument.
Wasn't his niece there or something, and she was like a real estate agent?
I don't think so. I could be mistaken.
Or was that the one before it?
I think that was the one before. I think that
okay,
was
so that should have been
Frankenstein
House of
Wolfman.
Yeah, so that should have been House of Frankenstein, and the last one should have been Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. Yeah, but well, no, because in that one we did discuss it. Frankenstein met the Wolfman.
Met the Wolfman, yes.
But yeah, House of Frankenstein, no, because unless it was like trying to be massively I think this would have been way too ahead of its time, because Boris Karloff was the monster at one point, the Frankenstein monster, and they were in a house now owned by him, played by a different character. But I think that's too far ahead.
I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and say, it's all about reviving the monster. We have a scientist who's following Frankenstein's documents there. But this House of Dracula gets killed halfway through, and this new character who I guess maybe he passed the vampire curse along to inadvertently.
I viewed him more as a homage to Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Okay, so here's the thing I don't get, because yeah, he has sort of the split personality. I'll say this. So with Dr. Edelman becoming a vampire, let's say, and they probably weren't thinking this deeply about it when they made the movie, but I'll say, okay, maybe he's like a half-blood, maybe he's a daywalker, and that's why sometimes he feels more human, because he does look in a mirror and his reflection goes away. Mm-hmm. So that's overtly following the vampire lore. But then, like you said, it's more like a split personality Jekyll and Hyde thing. But I will take modern mythos that we've taken. I'm going to take the mythos of Blade and say, yeah, he's a daywalker.
Because it didn't really make much sense what he was. I mean, he became the mad scientist, but if I'm going to go look for a good mad scientist, I'm still going to go with Pretorius.
Oh, hell yeah.
Who's still the best.
But overall, this one is weaker than House of Frankenstein, but I think it gets overlooked a lot.
It's still enjoyable. Like we said, aside from the continuity getting a kick in the balls, but all of these do. So it's not something I can really hold against this one exclusively. I mean, they were a lot more blatant with not following continuity when it came to Dracula and the Wolfman. But like we said, it did something different, I guess, with the Doctor. I felt awful for the character of Nina. And hey, Lawrence Talbot got cured. He wasn't a Wolfman anymore.
Which, you know what, that was interesting, but
it's like, I guess if maybe he wanted out of the role. Maybe he was just like, I'm kind of sick of this.
He came back one more time.
Did he?
Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein.
I still haven't seen it.
Oh, it's really good. I know you said you're not looking forward to the Abbott and Costello movies, but
I'm sure I'll like them when we get to them.
Yeah.
But I mean, maybe he was just like, let's finish this. Like, you guys want to keep bringing Lawrence Talbot back to life. He's like, fine, you can keep bringing him back to life, but he gets rid of the Wolfman this time.
Which, again, I don't care for the idea of, like, because Dr. Edelman tells him something like it becomes like a brain disease or a mental disease where it's just like the belief that you will turn into a werewolf, like, triggers these hormones within your mind that create the physical manifestation. I'm like, I don't like this being a scientific explanation. I like the mysticism of it.
It makes more sense, especially when it's like gypsies and wolves and I mean, what the full moon genetically triggers something. Yeah, sure.
Right.
No, it's a curse. Sorry, that's what it is.
Yeah. Exactly.
But yeah, overall, like you said, not as strong, but like you said, I think this is one that gets overlooked a little bit because it's really not that bad. And it was like, it's funny because it's like, I remember going off of, to bring him up for the billionth time, James Rolfe's review of this one. I feel like we liked this better than he did because he barely glossed over the story in his review, which is fine. I know he had a lot of movies to get through, but it's like, he really didn't mention much from this film. I remember, like, I went into this the first time and I was like, there's a lot more here I really enjoy.
Yep. So, I will revisit this one in the future.
Absolutely. This is not one I will be skipping.
Yes.
So I guess that wraps this one up. Any closing thoughts, or you're good?
I think I'm good. I think we covered it.
All right. Well, guys, thanks for tuning in. We will be back next week with something that I think we both agree is extremely under the radar and underrated.
I agree.
So you will find out what that is in a few weeks. Have a good night, everyone.
Take it easy.